All right, so okay, Epic Games. They just dropped some pretty major hints about what the future of Fortnite might look like. And let's just say the internet is kind of losing it right now.
Yeah.
We got this article here with some insider info, and it's juicy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, Epic's toying with the idea of bumping the player count way up in matches to, wait for it, 200.
No, what's really interesting is this isn't just like, some little tweak here and there. We're talking potentially like doubling the number of players battling it out on the whole island.
Oh,
This could be a big shift in their strategy, maybe moving away from just pure skill-based gameplay to something way more chaotic, like spectacle-driven.
right.
Think about it. Massive battles, insane, build fights, the potential for some really wild moments.
Yeah.
It's a gamble for sure, but one that could really pay off big time, even attract a whole new group of players.
Okay, I see where you're going with this, and yeah, I mean, the potential for some epic showdowns is huge.
Right.
But wouldn't that kind of like change the whole feel of the game? I mean, Fortnite's always been about that fast-paced strategic gameplay with 100 players. Could the current map even handle double the players without turning into a laggy mess?
Yeah, that's a valid concern for sure. And to be fair, some folks in the community are already, ringing the alarm bells.
Yeah.
They're worried about things like gameplay balance. Like suddenly you're competing against, 199 other players.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare, especially for newer players.
Yeah.
Plus, there's the whole question of, can current consoles even handle that much action without totally melting down?
Exactly. We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Stuck in a laggy match where you can't even build a basic ramp without it taking like 5 seconds. Nobody wants to go back to those dark ages of online gaming.
Right.
But hold on, this article also mentions something about Unreal Engine 6. What's the deal with that?
That's where things get really interesting. That could be the game changer. You see, Unreal Engine 6 is like the latest and greatest in-game development technology.
Okay.
And Epic Games themselves created it.
Oh, wow.
It's known for its ability to create these incredibly detailed worlds and handle a ton of action without sacrificing performance.
Hmm.
So if Fortnite makes the jump to Unreal Engine 6, well, that could address a lot of those technical concerns.
So you're saying Unreal Engine 6 could be the key to making these massive 200-player matches actually work? That's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, think about the possibilities. We could see destructible environments, dynamic weather events, maybe even entire cities crumbling around us as we fight for survival. That's next-level stuff.
You're catching on. Now, it's important to note that Epic hasn't officially confirmed anything yet.
Right.
They're probably just testing the waters, seeing how the community reacts to the idea.
Mm-hmm.
But even the fact that they're considering such a radical change shows that they're not afraid to shake things up,
Oh, yeah.
push the boundaries of what's possible in the battle royale genre.
I'm starting to see why there's so much buzz around this. This could be a huge turning point for Fortnite, and it has everybody wondering, is this the future of the game?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer probably lies somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It's unlikely that Epic would completely abandon the core gameplay that made Fortnite so popular in the first place, right?
You're right. So maybe instead of replacing the classic 100-player mode, they could introduce 200-player matches as a separate mode, like a limited-time event or something.
Exactly. That way they could experiment and see how it works without, alienating their core player base.
Right.
It would be like a taste of the future, a glimpse into what Fortnite could become.
Okay, so we've got massive 200-player battles on the horizon, potentially powered by the groundbreaking Unreal Engine 6. It sounds insane, but also kind of amazing. But let's not forget about the community. What are players saying about all this? Are they ready to embrace the chaos, or are they clinging to the familiar?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. The article dives into some of the key concerns that players have raised, and some of them are pretty valid. So one of the biggest worries is about gameplay balance,
Yeah.
Some players are concerned that doubling the number of players could create like a real disadvantage, for people who are newer to the game or just, haven't quite mastered all the building and combat techniques.
Right.
It could feel like you're constantly running into, these seasoned pros who can build a fortress faster than you can blink.
Yeah, I get that it's already tough enough to survive against 99 other players, let alone 199.
Exactly.
And speaking of tough competition, there's also the whole issue of bots. Those AI-controlled players that sometimes fill up lobbies.
Right. Some players are worried that with 200-player matches, we might see like a flood of bots just to make sure the games are full, which could really dilute the competitive spirit of the game. Nobody wants to spend half the match fighting against these predictable AI opponents, when they're looking for a real challenge.
Totally. So we've got concerns about gameplay balance and, the potential bot invasion.
Right.
But let's shift gears for a second and talk about the potential upside.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, 200-player matches, that sounds absolutely bonkers.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what has some players hyped. They're picturing these like massive epic battles, almost like something out of a movie. Imagine these giant build fights with like hundreds of players clashing,
Yeah.
strategic alliances forming and breaking the landscape, constantly changing as players reshape it with their builds. It could be absolute mayhem in the best possible way.
Okay. I'm starting to see the appeal. It's like taking the classic Fortnite experience and just like amplifying it to the extreme. More players, more chaos, more potential for those, unforgettable, heart-pounding moments that make you want to shout, "Did you see that?"
Exactly. And who knows, maybe this kind of like large-scale gameplay could even lead to like the emergence of entirely new strategies and tactics. Think about it, with 200 players controlling key areas of the map would be like crucial.
Yeah.
We could see teams forming these massive fortresses, creating choke points and maybe even establishing resource hubs to just dominate the flow of the game,
Right.
like a whole new level of strategic depth.
Now, that's an interesting thought. It wouldn't just be about individual skill anymore. It would be about coordinating with your squad, planning your attacks, maybe even forming alliances with other teams to take down the big players.
Yeah.
It could totally change the way we think about Fortnite strategy.
Absolutely. And, Epic Games has a history of introducing like game-changing updates. Remember when they added vehicles or when they introduced rifts that could like teleport you across the map?
Yeah.
They're always experimenting, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah. You're right. I totally forgot about those updates. So even though the idea of 200-player matches sounds crazy at first, it wouldn't be completely out of character for Epic Games to at least give it a shot. And
Yeah.
it'll be a total flop, or maybe it'll like revolutionize the game. Who knows?
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? We're all on the edge of our seats waiting to see what happens. This is the kind of stuff that keeps the gaming world buzzing, that sense of anticipation, the possibility of something truly game-changing.
I've got to admit, you got me hyped now.
Yeah.
So if Epic does decide to take the plunge and unleash these massive 200-player battles upon the world, what do you think the impact would be on the overall Fortnite experience? Would it enhance the things we already love about the game, or would it completely change its identity?
That's the big question. And honestly, it's tough to say for sure, but one thing's for certain, it would have ripple effects throughout the entire game, from map design to weapon balance to even the psychological dynamics of the competition.
Let's break that down a bit. What about the map itself? Could the current maps even handle double the players without feeling overcrowded or creating too many bottlenecks?
Well, Epic would definitely need to make some adjustments. They might need to expand the existing maps, create entirely new ones specifically designed for large-scale battles, or even introduce new mechanics that allow players to, like, spread out more effectively.
Maybe something like teleporters or vehicles that could like quickly transport you across vast distances.
Exactly. They need to think creatively about how to make the map feel spacious and dynamic, even with 200 players running around. And then there's the issue of weapon balance. With so many more players vying for loot, would the current spawn rates be enough? Would certain weapons become like overpowered in a large-scale battle? These are all questions Epic would need to consider.
And what about the impact on building? Would the current building mechanics even be viable in a match with 200 players, or would it just turn into like a chaotic mess of half-finished structures?
That's a great question. I imagine building would become even more crucial in a 200-player match, but it would also be way more challenging.
Right.
Players would need to adapt their strategies, maybe focusing on building more defensively to protect themselves from the increased number of enemies, or maybe developing new techniques for like quickly building and dismantling structures to outmaneuver their opponents.
It's like the whole game would become this giant ever-changing puzzle, with players constantly adapting to the evolving landscape and the movements of their opponents. It's almost like a whole new genre of battle royale, something beyond anything we've seen before.
You're hitting on something really important here. This isn't just about making the game bigger. It's about exploring new possibilities within the battle royale genre. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible and creating like a truly unique and unforgettable experience for players.
So we've talked about the potential impact on the map weapon balance and building, but what about the players themselves? How would this massive increase in player count affect the social dynamics and the overall feel of the game?
That's where things get really fascinating. With 200 players, teamwork would become even more essential. We could
Yeah.
see the emergence of like large, organized clans dominating the game, or maybe even alliances forming between smaller groups to take on the larger ones. It would add a whole new layer of like social intrigue and strategic depth to the game.
And think about the psychological impact.
Yeah.
The pressure would be intense with so many players vying for victory. Every decision would carry more weight. Every encounter would feel more significant. It would be a true test of skill strategy and mental fortitude.
Absolutely. It would be like stepping into a whole new world of competition where the stakes are higher, the action is more intense, and the thrill of victory is even sweeter.
Okay, so we've explored the potential benefits and drawbacks, the technical challenges and strategic possibilities, and the impact on the gameplay and the community. But let's bring it back to you, our dear listener. So we've thrown a lot at you about this potential 200-player Fortnite update, and now we want to hear from you, right? What are your gut reactions to all of this? Are you excited about the possibility of these, like, massive battles, or are you a little hesitant about how it might change the game, and love?
What I think is really fascinating is that this update really highlights the evolution of gaming itself.
Yeah.
Fortnite isn't just a game anymore, it's a cultural phenomenon. It's a social space, a platform for creativity and competition, and any major change like this is going to have ripple effects throughout the whole community.
You're right. It's way bigger than just adding, a few extra players to a match. So let's get down to the real question here. Would you want to play in a 200-player Fortnite match?
Yeah, just imagine like dropping onto the island with 199 other players.
Whoa.
The sheer scale of it, the intensity of the unpredictable chaos.
Yeah.
Do you think it would enhance the strategic depth of the game, or would it just devolve into a chaotic free-for-all?
And if Epic Games does go ahead with this, what kind of impact could it have on the game's meta? Would the tried and true strategies still work? Or would we see the rise of entirely new play styles? Would teamwork become even more crucial, or would individual skill be the deciding factor in such a crowded battlefield? You know?
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities, and I'm sure Epic's eager to hear what the community thinks. After all, Fortnite's success is built on its ability to adapt and evolve to keep things fresh and exciting for players. This potential 200-player mode could be the next step in that evolution, a leap into uncharted territory.
Well, there you have it, folks. We've explored the ins and outs of this potential Fortnite game changer, from the technical challenges to the strategic possibilities and everything in between. Now it's your turn to weigh in. What do you think about the future of Fortnite? Are you ready for 200-player mayhem? Let us know.
Yeah, and as always, keep those minds sharp, those reflexes honed, and those building skills polished, because who knows what thrilling surprises await us in the ever-evolving world of Fortnite.
This has been The Deep Dive, signing off. Happy gaming, everyone.